listening to the future of talk. American Freedom Radio. This is American Freedom Radio.
Thank you for joining us. Jack Blood, your radio gun. This is AmericanFreedomRadio.com and all of our great affiliates out there across the world. Thank you for tuning in today. Had a very interesting conversation last night with Kurt Haskell, who, along with his wife Lori, were on the plane that carried the underwear bomber. This is, of course, all over the news. It is a story we cannot get away with as more and more inconsistencies seem to come related to the official story. Wanted to bring Kurt on today to tell his story, and more importantly, to keep him in focus, to keep him in the spotlight in the media, not only to maybe protect him, but to keep this story strong so that all the leads are followed up and we can get to the truth of what happened on Christmas Day. Kurt Haskell joins us. Again, thank you, Kurt, for making time for us. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me today.
Can I have you just kind of retell part of the story, Kurt, for people who maybe haven't heard it or didn't catch all of it? If you could just reiterate some of the stronger points of that day, Christmas Day, starting in Amsterdam and going to the bombing itself.
Okay, sure. My wife and I were flying in from Uganda via Kenya to Amsterdam and then back to Detroit. And the important part of the story comes when we were in the boarding area at Amsterdam. We were sitting on near what I would call the final ticket agent, the person that checks your boarding pass just before you go down the hallway and get on the plane. We were about 10 feet away, sitting on the floor because there weren't two seats by each other anywhere that were open. So we took a seat on the floor, playing cards. I'm just people watching, and I saw two people approach the ticket agent that, I didn't think the people were strange if you look at them separate, but I thought it was strange that they were together. And one of them looked like a poor black teenager to me, and the second man looked like a wealthy 50-ish, I thought he was Indian, but, let's just say Southeast Asian descent of some sort.
Okay.
And they seemed like an odd couple to me to be together, and they approached the ticket agent, and I could hear the entire conversation. It was very quiet, and I was only about 10 feet away. And only the Indian man spoke, and what he said was, this man needs to get on the plane, and he doesn't have a passport. And the ticket agent then said, well, he has to have a passport to get on the plane. And the Indian man then responded, he's from Sudan. We do this all the time. And the ticket agent then responded, well, you'll need to talk to my manager, and pointed down a hallway for them to go down, which they did.
Can I stop you there? Because
Sure.
One of the questions I had was, and you identify this man as he's been called the sharp-dressed man.
Correct, Mr. Sharp-Dressed Man. Coined by M Live, not me, but
yeah. Well, I mean, it does kind of fit. A guy in a suit, anyway. Especially, when you're standing next to a poor black teen at this point, which we found out later is rather rich.
Yeah.
Did he identify himself at all, or did he just bring this up and say we want to get this guy on the plane? He doesn't have a passport.
Mm-hmm.
Did he say who he was or
No, he
who
didn't.
he was representing?
No.
Okay. Go ahead from there. So they go get the manager, and what happens next?
They didn't get the manager. They went down a hallway where the manager was supposed to be, and I didn't look after that.
And that's all of them, including the kid, including the suspect?
Well, there were just two of them, right.
Uh-huh. So the suspect and the older gentleman go down the hall with the ticket agent?
Not with the ticket agent. The ticket agent just pointed them down a hallway and didn't go.
Go ahead.
Okay. I never saw the Indian man again, and I never saw, who I would call the terrorist again until he was attempting to blow up our plane a few hours later.
I want to, kind of stick to the fine details with you today, Kurt, because
Absolutely.
sometimes, even though you've probably told this story hundreds of times, sometimes, it'll jog your memory, or we'll find something that's really small that is rather significant.
Okay.
One of the things I was interested in, and I asked you about this last night when we talked on the phone, is, you're not absolutely sure that this was an Indian. He could have been a Pakistani, but, you're doing the best you can to kind of put a face or an identity to the person, but he very well could have been Pakistani.
You're absolutely right. I just looked at him and I thought he was from India, but that would be like asking someone from India to tell the difference from an American and a Canadian.
Right.
I'm not that talented enough to tell what side of the border he was born on.
Yeah, because we have seen in past instances where things like this happen, we see a lot of integration with Pakistanis, and we know CIA, ISI have worked closely together in the past. So I thought that might be important, the distinction, because everyone's running with the fact that the guy was an Indian, just because, again, that was your simple observation. But as you say, he could have just as well been a Pakistani.
Yeah, just the impression that he gave me was that he was from India. But, yeah, that's it.
Take us to the plane. So the plane ride is fairly uneventful. It's a transatlantic flight. I assume, people are sleeping or trying to pass the time the best they can.
Correct.
What happened as soon as this thing sparked up, excuse the pun, what happened then? What did you see then?
Well, we were 10 minutes from landing. The pilot had just come over the loudspeaker and said, "We're landing in 10 minutes. Flight crew, take your seats." And a flight attendant was walking past my row to go to the back to take her seat, and she said something to herself. Excuse me. She said, "Something smells like smoke," and that got me to look up from, I was looking at the monitor on the back of the seat back in front of me before that. I looked up, and I could see smoke coming from row 19, seat A, which is the left window seat. We were in row 27, seats H and J, which are the two seats on the window in row 27. I saw smoke coming from what looked like the floor area of row 19. So I took off my seatbelt, got up, took a few steps, and after I took about 2 or 3 steps, row 19 exploded into flames, the floor, the seats, and up the wall to the ceiling. And people were screaming, "Fire, fire, water, somebody get water." Somebody screamed, "Terrorist." A couple flight attendants were screaming. The pilot comes back on the loudspeaker and says, "Emergency landing." And all the while this is going on, the terrorist man is being hauled off into the first-class section by a couple passengers. But, at that time, it wasn't clear to me that he was a terrorist or, maybe he was just injured in this fire and was hurt, on accident, because he wasn't fighting back. So I didn't really pay a lot of attention to that aspect of it, because to my left was this fire burning the plane. And a very quick-thinking flight attendant, a black male, grabbed the fire extinguisher and ran over to the fire very quickly and put it out. And everything was finished in a minute or less than a minute, very quickly.
One of the people that subdued the suspect was Jasper Sharenga. I don't know how much you've seen him on the media. We were playing a clip from him earlier, and his behavior was a little strange to me. He looked like he was being directed somewhat. Were you able to kind of watch how he did subdue the suspect and maybe how his actions were, as if he was maybe anticipating this or just reacting like anyone else would? I mean, was there anything odd about how he subdued the suspect? Anything to think of?
Honestly, I didn't really witness that at all, because by the time I looked up, the beginning of the skirmish had ended and they were just hauling him off. And when they were hauling him off, I wasn't really watching either. Just I saw it out of the corner of my eye.
Yeah.
I was watching the other direction where the fire was taking place.
Sure.
Because to me, that was the big event, the fire.
Right.
I wanted to do whatever I could to put that out